could she possibly tell them that seeing her mom's quick decline and painful death while in the middle of her own treatment had left her terrified? She hadn't been able to get away from Seaview and the memories of her mother's final days fast enough. She believed that a positive attitude was an essential ingredient for surviving cancer, but it was almost impossible to maintain that attitude in the face of her mother's death from a recurrence that had come less than 2 years after she'd first been diagnosed. So, instead of explaining, Hannah had succumbed to guilt and dutifully taken the remaining 2 weeks of leave she'd accumulated during years of ignoring vacation time and socking away sick days to come here. That 2 weeks was all that was left after the time taken for her mastectomy, and then the chemo, which had knocked her for a loop, despite her stubborn determination to pretend she was just fine. Her boss had grudgingly agreed to let her off, but he'd made it plain he wasn't one bit happy about the timing. In less than 24 hours, she'd flown back to Florida, rented a car, driven for an hour, and then taken a ferry out to Seaview Key, a tiny island community of less than 1,000 full-time residents, just off Florida's west coast. Once there, she'd had to deal with traffic jams caused by winter tourists, all of which, given her current frame of mind, was trying, to say the least. Worse, she had exactly 14 days to convince her grandmother to sell the inn, which was also the family's longtime home, and move into a retirement community where she'd be well cared for. Since Grandma Jenny's parents had opened Seaview Inn when the island had been little more than a fishing village reached by boat, Hannah had a hunch her work was cut out for her. Her grandmother sometimes exhibited a tenacious streak of sentimentality that overrode common sense. "I know it's only 4 o'clock, but we'll eat supper now," Grandma Jenny declared. "I missed lunch, and I'm hungry. You can unpack your things later." She glanced at the suitcase Hannah had left at the bottom of the staircase that led up to the family's private quarters on the left and to the sprawling wing of guest rooms on the right. "Didn't bring much, did you? You having the rest of your things sent?" Hannah stared at her blankly. "Why would I do that?" "Because you're moving home, of course." Jenny's tone was matter-of-fact. "I've told everyone in town who's been asking that we'd have the inn up and running again in another week or 2, a month at the outside. While your mother was sick, we let a few things slide, but with the 2 of us working, that should give us enough time to get things shipshape. Don't you think so? There's still a couple of good months of the winter season left, and we'll draw some folks from the mainland in April and May. Of course, a lot of our regulars had to make other arrangements, but they'll be back with us next year, I'm sure." There were so many things wrong with her grandmother's assumptions. Hannah couldn't decide where to start. It didn't matter, anyway, because Grandma Jenny hadn't waited for a reply. She was already heading toward the kitchen at a clip that belied the reported evidence of her declining health. In fact, Hannah very much suspected that Grandma Jenny would outlive her and do it with gusto. All during their early supper of broiled snapper and fresh tomatoes and strawberries from the local farmer's market, Grandma Jenny continued to bombard Hannah with her plans for reopening Seaview Inn as quickly as possible. She was as alert and strong-willed as ever. "You can put that PR experience of yours to good use," she told Hannah. "Get some ads running up north. Lot of our regulars in Ohio and Michigan who come later in the season need to know our doors are open again. Maybe you can even do something on the internet. I hear that's the best place to advertise these days. Or we can send postcards. I have the addresses for most of the customers who've stayed here in the past few years. Had 'em back to the beginning. But I figure those people are mostly dead and gone. What do you think?" Hannah put down her fork and tried to find the right words to tell her grandmother that instead of spending time and money on advertising, they needed to be thinking about finding a good real estate agent. Then it occurred to her that a little